until it gets to the end there.
All right, we are now live streaming. Good morning, councillors and everyone else who's on. I'd like to open the August council meeting. The council item, live streaming statement item 2. Every River Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded by remaining in the public gallery. It is assumed your consent is given to in the event your image is broadcast. This includes any filming by television cameras if attendance is approved by the General Manager or me. Item 3 is acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge that we are here today on the land of the Wanga people. I would also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to past Aboriginal elders, the present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who reside in this area and their future generations. In statement of purpose, item 4, I've come here as a councillor freely and without bias to represent the views of the community in considering the matters before us today. To vote in a matter I consider to be the best interest of the community and to observe the code of conduct and respect the rule of the chair and the views of my fellow councillors. Now, this is a first, I think, that we've had such a formal council meeting with via media, so it's a breaking ground. We're all in attendance, so we don't know apologies. Previous minutes of the July meeting have been distributed. Would someone like to move that those minutes be received? Moved by Councillor McGrath. Seconder, Councillor Hall. All those in favour, raise your hands, please. All those in favour, I gather Mr. Councillor McAllister, who's walked off, has raised his hand. Or against? Carried. Item 7 is non-disclosure of interests. Should have been put into Belinda and received none.
Councillor McAllister's just signalled there.
Councillor McAllister, you've got a question? Yeah, you're unmuted. Yeah, you're right.
Councillor McAllister, did you have a question? Councillor McAllister, can you hear us?
No, okay. Moving along, there's no mayoral minutes. Item 9.1 is the minutes of the Aboriginal Liaison Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first minutes of the Aboriginal Liaison Committee since it was resolved to create it. I believe there's been previous iterations of the Aboriginal Liaison Committee. This is the first one since I think the new council. And there's a number of representatives there. Those minutes, are fairly self-explanatory. There was a suggestion or recommendation from the committee to expand the current membership. The recommendation from the organisation is to retain that current membership at the moment, as detailed in the committee charter, and review the structure potentially in 12 months' time, just to give it a chance to get underway.
Thanks, Phil. Would someone like to move the recommendation that we note the minutes and retain the current membership? Moved by Councillor Metcalfe, seconded by Councillor Hall. It's just an interesting comment that I think we should make is that even in the early days, the composition of the committee is being discussed frequently, and so I'm glad that we've got at least the committee should stay the same for 12 months and then review. Any other questions or comments? We moved and seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Carried. Item 10.1, Mayor, Councillor and General Manager meetings.
Standard monthly report, Mr. Mayor, just showing the attendance of meetings between yourself and the General Manager. It's fairly self-explanatory.
Yes, would someone like to move the recommendation that we note those meetings? Councillor McAllister, you got a question?
No.
Move, thanks, Councillor Bull. Seconded. Councillor Fogarty. Now, I just might make the comment to Councillor Betts. I remember that you did send an email through looking for a report. Now, we initiate this format to see the meeting, to keep all councillors advised of the meetings attended by both the GM and myself and any other councillors. And I thought that would be sufficient so that if you have got a question, you could raise. And are you still quite happy to have it in that format, Peter?
Oh yeah, look, I'm fine, but it's sort of it's a little bit behind, really, isn't it? So you only get the notification now from meetings a month ago. And can I just mention while I'm going, I did actually attend that HAG meeting with you, Mayor, on the 15th of July, which I've obviously failed to put down.
All right. But we need an adjustment to Peter Ben's attended the HAG meeting. We'll put that in for you, Councillor Betts. All right, any questions on that? Peter? Councillor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I did. I was a bit slack in getting back to Belinda. I was at the Community Strategic Planning meeting at Brisbane, with the one that General Manager attended, and I represented Council at the Wanganella one with Robbie Sefton, as there was no one else attending from Council. But I did notify Belinda yesterday, so if there's any adjustment to be made to the meetings attended, that can go on there.
Noted, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McGrath. Any other questions or comments? Norm, you've got a hand up. Do you want to speak, or you can't get the hand down? Well, moved and seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, just Belinda's just reminded me that there was a notice of motion that was put forward by Councillor McAllister during the week. So ordinarily I would have put it forward to consider it just for other business, but it's entirely up to you as the chair when you'd like to consider that.
Whenever you want to put it up.
Yep. So do you want to share the screen with the notice of motion? Councillor McAllister, can you hear us?
It should be on 10.
Sure. McAllister. because we've lost him. Yes, Mr. Mayor, this has been sent via email to all the councillors, and the councillors hopefully can all see it on screen. And there may be some questions of councillors before any mover or seconder comes. I presume, Councillor McAllister will move it. However, he's just from technical issues dropped off the meeting, so I might actually go and ring him in on the phone.
So are we discussing this motion now, or are we only discussing, are we going to accept it as a motion?
Can I normally?
Yeah, just figure on Councillor Fogarty.
You've dropped off again, and we'll just about to put your notice of motion forward. I'll just put you on speakerphone, and hopefully people can hear you okay, just in terms of the technical issues. Can you hear us, Norm?
I can hear you, yeah.
So the answer to your question, Councillor Fogarty, is that council needs to determine whether it wants to see this as consider this as an item of business. So you want to look it up further? Just yeah. Now at this stage, pursuant to clause 3.9 of the Code of Meeting Practice, Councillor McAllister submits the following motion to be considered at this meeting. I think tentatively had a seconder for Councillor Betts, but I just want to confirm through you, Norm. Through Mr. Mayor.
So it's been moved by Councillor McAllister. Are you quite happy to, Councillor Betts, second that motion?
Yes, I am.
Right, well, I might just ask if there are any questions that councillors have got before we take a vote on it.
Norm, I just want to be really clear. Are we voting on the motion, or are we voting on the premise to accept it as a motion?
Considering it as a motion.
Considering it as a motion, I've been advised by the General Manager.
Council needs to determine that it will be a matter to consider in business before it considers the notice of motion itself.
Right.
So the first step is to say, yes, we'll put it in the business paper.
Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded by Councillor McAllister and Betts that motion will go into today's business paper. Now, we can vote on that, or you can have questions on it. So we've moved and seconded. Any questions on it?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me? It's Peter speaking.
Yeah, put your hands up. I think it might be the easiest way to it. Yes, thanks, Councillor Crabb.
Just can we just have another look at the whole recommendation? I just haven't been able to read the whole thing just to refresh myself on the screen. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of points that I would like to just raise.
But aren't we discussing the motion to be put in there? We'll be debating the motion if it gets put in. We've got to vote on the motion now.
Yep, correct.
Well, we can't discuss the motion until we do that.
Okay, so you're right, Councillor McRae.
Yes.
Right, okay. All right, moved and seconded. All those in favour of the motion going into today's business paper, raise your hands, please.
Mine's raised.
Noted.
Against? Carried. So it's in today's business paper. Do you want to deal with that now?
It's up to you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, absolutely.
Right, I assume that it's gone into today's business paper and it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Betts and moved by Councillor McAllister, seconded by Councillor Betts. Are there any questions or comments?
I haven't actually seen the costing of it, so my thoughts would be that I know, Shirley, you had a $50,000. It was usually the green waste thing was usually 50 grand, something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, from the previous example, and I might, if I can, take that as a question through you, Mr. Mayor, into the preliminary estimates for costs of this exercise for the moment, and ask Mark Delzell, the Director of Infrastructure, to provide a bit more information. We've done some comparison with a similar exercise we did some years ago under the Deniliquin Council. Mark, do you have some further information?
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Phil. And yeah, so in regard to, turn my video on so people can see me. We've reviewed how it was undertaken in previous years. So it's probably around 4 to 5 years since this was undertaken. The operations staff have had a look at a team of 3 staff plus associated equipment, trucks, and that. That works out about $2,500 a day at a cost to do it. So if we're looking there at something in the 7 to 10 days, I understand 7 days being a week, but we generally work 5-day weeks, so I think that'd be more like 10 days. A cost of around $25,000. Now, over that time, based on a sort of an average of 15 minutes at each location, we'd be picking up around 300 properties. It's around 10% of the total properties within the town area. Previously, it's been discussed that it costs up to $50,000 and 8 weeks to complete. That was done on the basis that it was a bit of an open thing. Council just followed its normal garbage collection runs, gave notice for people to put out material, which was fine. But of course, unfortunately, people would miss their normal runs, and then we'd have lots of material sitting on the curb that then council staff would have to backtrack and pick up. So ultimately, council staff we went around the town numerous times, therefore lengthening the time and the cost. So under this scenario, we'd be looking at actually having it as a nomination, setting it up where people would nominate, so that staff would actually have the ability to work out what the extent of the pickup will be, and then also give us a heads up around if the 2-week time frame is doable for it, or it would take more time depending on the interest from the community in taking up the service. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions or comments?
Just on that, I'm sort of thinking that, maybe if the restrictions are continued, well, this is a possibility, but I would like to think that you could cap it at a sort of a figure that would say, okay, this is a service that we're providing. It's probably, if you look at it, for the people who are actually in lockdown, there's probably, rough guesstimate would be about a third are actually housebound. So I would be suggesting that, somehow you actually defray the cost by saying, well, this is a service, register. If you don't register, we're not going to pick up. And, it's a service that's going to be there for a couple of days. And, you might put a restriction of 15 grand on it or something like that, if that's possible.
Councillor Hall, you had your question.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that, what he was trying to say then. If you could decipher that, the general manager.
So Councillor said, just so that for anyone who didn't hear, suggested that it may be able to be capped. Could it be capped? Asked the question whether it could be capped so that there is a smaller window, I'm paraphrasing here, Councillor McAllister, smaller window of opportunity for people to register, to get picked up, and we cap it at a certain dollar amount if that can be done. So that's probably a secondary question for Mark Delzell.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. But my question is it going to be green waste or are you going to include hard waste? Because I know that when we did the last hard waste dump was significant because everything was put out on the nature strip. You got no idea of the amount of it. I think Mark could testify to this, that whether we're going to just make it a green waste for the trees and as a bit of a spring clean in terms of your gardens and so on, or we're doing hard waste, which is mattresses, sofas and God knows what you'll find, they'll be there.
Thanks, Councillor Hall. Councillor Fogarty. You're still muted, Pat. Pat, you're still muted.
Yeah, look, I agree with Councillor Hall. I don't think there's adequate time to prepare the community to be really clear about what it is we're going to do. And if there's not adequate time, it will end up like it did before when it was an absolute debacle, cost a squillion dollars. And yeah, the streets were just loaded with stuff, with rubbish. So I think it takes quite a bit of time to prepare it, to get the information out to people, exactly what will be collected. Look, even previously when it was just green waste, people were virtually chopping down trees and putting trees out the front. And then the staff had to cut them up to be able to handle them. So I think it requires some time to educate people and to be really clear about exactly what we are going to do, or we're going to end up with a very costly bill.
Thanks, Councillor Fogarty. I've just got a quick one from Mark Dalziel. Have you got spare money in the waste budget?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, councillors. So the collection budgets this year, 21-22, were reduced from 2021, along with sort of all councils' operational budgets as part of the budgeting process. So having a look at the figures that we sort of have worked out to date, there wouldn't be that in the general collection number, general collection budget. There may be funds under sort of the waste area in general, especially given that council does put an amount into reserve each year. So there's more income than expenditure. We need to put money into the reserve for future rehabilitation costs, as well as extensions and that to the landfill. So having a look at the budgets, and especially those operational budgets, and the cost last year, I don't think that there is a budget in them based on what we feel the amounts would be. I'd love that there would be, but that was part of the budgeting process, was to bring those costs down to where we thought the service was going to be. Just picking up some of the other questions that were just asked. The type of waste, yeah, green waste would definitely be easier. Just a single waste source would definitely be easier for the staff to pick up, because ultimately with a truck we can't mix the waste types. Otherwise, then we've got to pull them apart again at the disposal. So, but we can handle hard waste, but I'd definitely highlight that yes, the hard waste is more challenging for the staff. It's size and that with green waste. In the past, we have limited the size to try and not have that thing with big branches and big trunks, and that would be the information that we'd send out to the community. I think it would take 3 to 4 weeks in terms of just finalising what the rules and that would be around it, getting a couple of weeks of notification out to the community before we got it started. So if council did want to move forward with it, mid-August, it would be we'd be looking at like a mid-September, late September to undertake the activity. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions or comments?
Hang on.
I just find the question that taking Mark's comments about it seems to be very rushed to get it instead of looking at it in a long-term way. Also, it's a limited, and I take actually Councillor Hall's comments about what the amount of stuff, if we say green waste, I think you're going to get a lot of other stuff put in with that outdoor collection that's going to be collected. Also, it's only limited to the residents in Northern, not the whole of the council. So there's some issues that need to be worked through.
It was a thought that a community member put forward to me, and it was going to take time to work it through. But if we're going to be in this situation of lockdowns every now and again, I think it's something that we should consider. Not necessarily right now, but it's something that we should have in place that we can actually say, well, in the next month or something like that, we want to do green waste only, but we just want to help people get through lockdown by giving them something to do. Productive.
Right. Someone put their hand up before.
Yeah, Norm, Nick speaking. Just wondering if that's the case, Blighty would probably fill up pretty quick if you're going to get a lot of residents, and there are going to be a lot of people from town probably coming out and dumping hard and heavy waste as well. And I know you can't zone it, but I think it's on the individual's merit. If they really want to use the tip, they should probably be taking this stuff out there themselves, as in an open slather, where they can take whatever they want out there, maybe.
Thanks, Councillor Metcalfe. Councillor Fogarty. Still muted.
Sorry, I didn't put my hand down.
Right. Is there any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, just Mark Dalzell, just picking up your point, Councillor Metcalfe, would that be a situation to look at where we looked at a green waste pickup, but an extended, because we have the free weekends, we have 4 a year at the moment, which is essentially giving the community opportunity to dispose of what we'd consider they're the hard waste, like white goods and things like that, maybe an extended free waste weekend period. And therefore, if we do a collection, we concentrate on the green waste. Thanks.
Yeah. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, just following up from that, Mark, what's or one of the stuff, when's our next programmed weekend? The opportunity may be to bring that forward, and just with a little bit of kind of advertising to say, look, during COVID, we might be able just to bring that forward to a more appropriate kind of timely kind of date.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Hall. Without knowing the exact date, we normally have them at a 3-month period. So there's one in June. So the next one would be in October from memory. So we'd definitely be able to bring that forward, especially in a time that would line up with any other collection activities. Yeah, so and I think that would work well in dealing with the issue between the green waste, hard waste, because as has been noted, the green waste is pretty straightforward, even with larger stuff with the shipping equipment the council does have. It is the hard waste that's always a bit of an issue regarding this sort of activity. Thanks.
Probably the only issue there is that in a lockdown, we're not allowed to go to the tip, are we?
Yes, so for all councillors' information, operationally we've made the decision to have the landfill still open, or all landfills still open. We see them as a service rather than a retail or that sort of business. So as a service, they can remain open. That includes the general disposal area and the recyclable disposal area. We've closed the tip shop because we consider that as being a retail and therefore within the current health orders, and the main area where people would congregate and move around. But most councils have left them open. Some councils have closed them with discussions with other councils. But at this this period of time, they're open, and we'll leave them open until there's a specific order saying that they need to be closed. Thanks.
The next waste-free weekend is actually not till the 23rd of October.
So thanks, Councillor Ball. I'm hearing that there's.
Someone might not have heard, Councillor Ball.
Say that again, mate.
The next waste weekend is the 23rd of October, so whether we look at bringing that.
The next waste weekend, I know Peter McCracken was having problems, is the 23rd of October. So there is an opportunity, as Mark did say, that we might be able to bring that forward. That then gives us time to look at the overall program that might happen, because I think we're going to be with COVID and potentially lockdowns a lot more than what we can currently experience. So what's your thoughts on going down that path?
Make it the new month.
Thumbs up both the short term and then get a plan for the long term.
So you might just have a vote on the motion that's before the council now, and if that's lost, then someone could shadow a different motion that could be moved.
How about I withdraw my motion and foreshadow that we, as Mark said, or Ashley said, that we just bring the free tip day forward.
Yep, that can be done.
Councillor Hall.
Yeah, what's that?
I thought you put your hand up.
No, I was just scratching my head.
Now, what Councillor McAllister has proposed that he'll withdraw his motion on the
7-day free hard waste and
withdraw that motion, but bring
forward the motion. Put a different motion forward to bring forward the free waste weekends from foreshadow motion. The council bring the scheduled free waste weekend forward to, and let's pick a date.
Just can I just see clarification around the COVID rules that we are allowed as the public to go out to the tip?
Yes, the EPA has issued guidelines. It's considered by the government to be an essential service, and therefore people can attend for rubbish disposal and so forth.
That will create a lot of traffic out there.
You got to ensure that you social distance, you follow all the guidelines around mask wearing, and
It's an essential service.
yeah, it's essential service. I think the 5 kilometre rule is still within, but I'd have to have a look at that.
all right, the way forward. Councillor McAllister said that he wants to withdraw his motion.
Just need to mark that as motion withdrawn.
And the foreshadowed motion, the council will bring forward the schedule waste collection. Mark, need advice from you on a date. How much can you bring it forward?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We can bring it forward to any day. Ultimately, operationally, it runs pretty smooth. It's a question of notification to the community. So at the moment, it's in late October. I'd be looking at bringing it to say mid-September. Every chance that sort of still been locked down, but people have had some time. So if we look at a date, in mid-September for that, I'll just excuse me. I'll pick a date for it. The 18th and 19th of September. And they'll also give opportunity for council to receive a reporting workshop just regarding it and some more information in early September.
Forward to the 18th, 19th of September. That's your adjusted motion, Councillor McAllister.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think we could bring it forward even further because it is a response to lockdown. So otherwise, people will be sort of doing what they're doing. They're putting the rubbish in a thinking we need to, be a bit more responsive around the dates. It's only, it's virtually only manning the site and having the tip open. So, but I'm not panicking, so that's fine.
Mark, can we bring it forward 2 weeks?
2 weeks' time.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. 2 weeks' time from today or from this weekend?
From the 18th and 19th, bring it to the first weekend in September.
Yeah, look, operationally, it's as I say, the staff have been running these for a few years now. So operationally, it's just an instruction to staff that it'll be a free waste weekends, and then they sort of operate it in that way. It's just a matter of getting it out in the community. So that's sort of 2 weeks from now. If council feel that's sufficient time to get it out into the community, an earlier time in September is fine.
I'd support that.
You happy with that, Councillor McAllister?
Oh, look, I'm happy with that, because, I don't think it's going to be hard to get it out, like, you put it on TQN or whatever. But,
Yes.
I would dare say that we may be still in lockdown in that first week in September, who knows?
I think it's a want.
We'll go into that.
So I'm happy with that, as long as everybody else is happy with that. I think we spent enough time on this.
Right, so
It's up to them. You to put the vote. As long as everyone's, we've got to get a second, sorry.
Councillor Betts, are you happy to second that adjustment to the previous motion?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Just 2 things though. One, we really need to get it out there because we don't want people who do flag these things and are expecting that weekend that it's not going to happen. And do we need to make it really clear that we're bringing it forward and it's not in addition to any other free waste weekends?
Yeah, well, Tiffany Carroll's in on this meeting too, so I can see Tiffany writing the media releases up straight away.
So suggest through you, Mr. Mayor, that we just adjust the motion to bring the scheduled October free waste weekend forward to the 4th and 5th of September. So very clear.
Yep. So you're happy with it, Councillor Betts?
Yeah, just so the public is clear, because you can see that in a month's time they're going to go, well, hang on, where's the next, because we all know people don't potentially read, listen and understand properly.
Well, also, Councillor Betts, that might be a second issue down the track that we might have to have not 4 this year, but 5.
Councillor make the decision. Councillor Fogarty had a hand up, and also
Councillor Fogarty, do you have your hand up, Pat?
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. And my question was exactly the same as Councillor Betts, that we need to really get, if people are already thinking that October will be a free weekend, then we need to get it out there very quickly that we're bringing it forward to September.
I've just had a chat from Tiffany. She's typing the report as we speak. So that's good news. All right, Councillor McAllister, do you want to say something?
No.
All good, right. So the mover and the second are all quite happy with that. We can have a vote on that.
or the chair officer, so see the chair.
Yeah, there we are. All right, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Now,
Very good. So over to finish 10.1, Mr. Mayor, so under 10.2. Are you happy to stay on the phone, Councillor McAllister?
Yeah, no, that might work better if that's okay. I don't know.
I don't think it's legal to.
No, that's what I.
Just try and log in via, because I think Councillor Wallace has turned off his video. It could be because of issues of reception. So And you'll be able to raise your hand using the raise hand function within Zoom. Okay, cheers.
Item 10.2, the council expense report.
Mr. Mayor, this is a periodic report that must be done under Section 252 of the Local Government Act. It basically just outlines, for purposes of transparency, those expenses that have been incurred by councillors from the 1st of July 2020 to the 30th of June 2021.
I'm happy to move that.
Moved by councillor Ball, seconded by councillor McCrabb. Any questions or comments? Everyone seems happy. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. Item 10.3, resolutions of council.
Similar again, Mr. Mayor, this is a regular monthly report that outlines the progress of resolutions of the council that have been either implemented or are still in train. At the moment, notice that as for the 2021 financial year, there's 203 total resolutions, of which 192 have been closed. And so far this year, this financial year, 17 have been resolved and 15 closed.
All right, the recommendations there, we note the report. Someone want to move that recommendation? Moved by councillor Betts, seconded by councillor McCrabb. Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. Item 10.4. Is investment and services report. Sunny.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the investment balance has ranged between 42 million and 47 million over the past 12 months. At the moment, we're sitting at 47.2 million, so that the increase in that from last month is mainly due to the Restart New South Wales and Transport New South Wales grants. Interest received this month has been around 25,000, and we've accrued but not yet received around 120,000. We're asking council to note and receive the July report, investments totalling 47.2 million. Note the accrued interest earned for the month of 25,000, and note the accrued interest not yet received at about 120,000.
Happy to move, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by councillor McCrabb, seconded. Councillor Betts. Any questions or comments? Councillor McCrabb.
Sonny, I note the looking at the Imperium report. At the July meeting, it was noted that for May and June, the benefit of the Imperium, the better interest rates that we're getting was about $14,780 benefit. I think that was just for those 2 months. In August, or this meeting, the 3-month benefit was $15,520. Am I correct in assuming that that's a $740 benefit from Imperium for this month only? And the question, which I think I did ask last time, but I've forgotten what you said, was what is the cost? Is the cost of Imperium a set fee, or is it a percentage?
It's a set fee. It's $12,000 a year.
Right. So that would mean that for the month, just going back to the first part of my question, for the last month, if it's $1,000 a month over the, obviously spread over the year, we've made quite a bit in the first 2 to 3 months, and we're at a point now where we're probably just treading water.
Yeah, so I think, you'll see those fluctuations, month by month, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against, carried. Item 10.5, which is the combined delivery program. Sunny.
Yes, thank you. So this is the final report from last year's operational plan. So for the year, we had put down 121 actions to be completed. Of those 121 actions, we have completed 105, and 16 of those are either, and the remaining 16 have either been stopped or they didn't meet their targets for the year, or that we've moved them into the next operational plan. So we are, it's a standard report that you get every month, and we're just asking Council to note the final report.
Thank you, Shani. The recommendations here to receive and note the report. Someone like to move that? Moved by Councillor Crabbe, seconded by
I can do that.
Councillor Ball. Any questions or comments to Shani? Councillor Crabbe.
Yeah, I just noticed, just looking at the red dots, just an observation more than anything else. I think it highlights the fact that we need to backfill Mark's position, because it's, and I could be wrong in assuming this, but, you know, the Director of Infrastructure and also the Manager of Engineering and Assets is still one and the same person. And until we fill Mark's old role, some of these red dots, you know, or that's the reason we've got some of these red dots there. Would that be a fair comment?
Well, yeah, for me, not talking for Mark, I do. I believe it is a fair comment, but I've just seen Mark's put his camera on, so I'll hand over to him.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. Thanks, Councillor Crabbe. Yeah, it is a fair comment. It's been part of the challenges, and when you look through the report and break it down to areas, corporate services and that have done particularly well. Overall, council's done well. It's still challenging for infrastructure with the resourcing and staff changeover. So in terms of that position, we're now in a position that we can go out to advertise for that position. We've looked at it in terms of where the changes in the structure around the projects, and that's where it's just taken a bit longer than what we liked to get the information for that position out. But yeah, we definitely internally see that as a sort of one of the hurdles at the moment. Yep, it is covered by sort of with the staff covering that position. But yeah, we'll get those advertisings done. So as we come into the Q1 and into this year, getting that position filled, we'll pick that up. And all those, or a lot of those areas that are noted in red from the infrastructure area, a lot of them will move forward. Some of them are like around capital works completion and that. Well, we note that, try and work out why we weren't able to make the 90% and move forward with that target again this year. But anyone that's actually an activity to undertake will move forward and continue into this into 21-22.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks for that response.
Any other questions before we take a vote? No? All those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried. Item 10.6 is the Davidson Street DA. Yes, Councillor Crabbe.
I'm happy to move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Crabbe. We got a seconder? Maori, would you like to? It's already been moved. Talk to me.
Yes. Yeah, so the application is DA 4521, change of use to steel fabrication 62 Davidson Street. The recommendation is for refusal due to the likely impacts of the proposed development on the surrounding built environment, the unsuitability of the site for the proposed development, and having regard to the industrial land strategy and the Deniliquin Local Environment Plan 1997 and the Development Control Plan. It's recommended for refusal for inconsistency with those planning documents.
Thanks, Murray. So we've got Councillor McCrapp's moved the recommendation. Got a seconder at all? Moved by Councillor, seconded by Councillor Fogarty. Further questions to Murray? Welcome back, Matt.
Just bear in mind, Mr. Mayor, Councillor McAllister's sort of coming in and out. He's having some real technical issues. He's currently not online at the moment. We're trying to capture when he comes in and out. But it may be that he's not be part of his vote, so it'll be an division seat. Yes. Councillor McCrapp, seconded by Councillor Fogarty.
All right, I'll ask for a division. So each councillor, Councillor Fogarty, for or against?
I'm against.
Against the motion.
Against the motion.
Councillor Fogarty, are you voting for the motion?
No, I'm against the motion.
But you seconded it.
Yeah, I did second it, but I'm happy to vote against it. I second it for discussion and I'm happy to vote against the motion.
Councillor
Oh,
Fogarty.
no, sorry, I'm voting, no, I beg your pardon, I'm voting for the motion. The motion is to refuse. Sorry.
Right, now, Councillor Hall. For. Councillor Bull.
For.
For. Councillor Betts.
For.
Councillor Metcalfe. For. Councillor McCrapp.
For.
Councillor McAllister.
Not here.
He's in cyberspace and I'm for the motion, it says. So therefore, the motion is.
Councillor Wallace.
Oh, Councillor Wallace, sorry.
For.
Right. So the motion is carried. 10.7. .7 is the Development Services Report. Back with Mari.
Sorry, Mary. I took your video off, so.
Oh. I'll just go back on. Oh, I can't come back on. You've stopped me. Bill.
Try that.
There you are.
Thank you. Yes, so report 10.7 is for the Development Services monthly report, and the information is to be received.
Moved by Councillor McCrapp. Got a seconder. Councillor Metcalfe. Any questions or comments? Councillor Metcalfe.
Just regarding the feedlot out of Pawning, just where are we at with that, and when does the submissions opposing close?
It's currently on exhibition. I think it'll be running for another 2 weeks. It was on exhibition for 28 days. I think we're 2 weeks into it. So, yeah.
Have we had anyone oppose the extension?
Not to date, no.
Okay. And with the the change of submitting DAs through council now is going to, is it New South Wales government, or is there been a drop off since the lodgement, which closed a month ago?
Yes, there definitely has. We've received a huge reduction, and there is a little bit of information in the report about our experiences so far, which has led to a lot of applicant frustration in finding it very difficult to deal with things through the portal, and a lot of delays on our half by the processing them, accepting them, asking for additional time, and a duplication of processes. So it will end up blowing our times out, and it's not providing good customer service for the applicants trying to navigate their way through, which has been expressed. Yep.
So Mari, so in regards to the council actually helping the applicant submit the DA,
yep.
Obviously that's been beneficial to the person submitting it. As in, obviously, it's not an easy thing to get your head around, I believe.
Yeah, it's been beneficial, but we're actually learning too, and we're experiencing some difficulties with the system. It's pretty clunky. So, but yeah, we are spending as much time with them as we need to, which is often, it can be half an hour and it can be multiple calls. So we're doing everything we can to help them, to the point of even, sitting with them while they're doing it. But it's still, it's difficult. It's a lot more difficult than we feel it should be.
So just another comment on that. So originally it was about 37 days for a turnaround for a submission. So what do you think it may take time-wise to get an application in and get an approval or denial?
Yeah, look, I think this currently it's adding 2 to 3 weeks on it, because by the time we actually get through the process with the applicant and get it lodged properly, that can take up to 2 weeks, because we're toing and froing and they're going back in trying to get things sorted, and then our processes internally of having to double entry everything from the portal through to our system, and yeah, just there's delays at every new facet of it, and that's just adding on to our times. By the time we get it to assess it, you've already lost a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's not a good situation.
Thanks, Mark.
Councillor Hall.
Just following on from that to you, Mari, no doubt you've had discussions or feedback to the department. Is there any avenue there that we can take to accept the DAs normally, manually back to the old days, or why this period of kind of flux is going on? Because it's only going to get worse. Well, people just won't be putting DAs in.
Yeah. We had a Ramjo's planners meeting yesterday, and there was another 9 councils there, which included Albury and a couple of the bigger councils, as well as the very small councils. And we are going to do a joint submission to see what we can do, because yeah, we need to have a lot of options, particularly that we can actually accept them both ways, that we can still accept them by the portal, or if the applicant chooses not to do that or doesn't want to do that, then we should be able to accept it over the counter until they get things sorted out in the portal and make it more user friendly. I do believe that one regional council is actually going to them and saying they're just not going to use it. So I don't know how that will go. But yeah, we are certainly making a representation, putting together all the problems we're all having, and at the very least, get the option that people can submit it either way to assist us and to assist them.
Councillor McCrae.
Mari, just just ask you to comment on page 150, the value and number of application determined, the comparison between 20 and 21. We're only just over halfway through the year and we've already exceeded the whole year last year, calendar year. There's some quite big numbers in the first 3 months of the year. Can you just comment whether they were, whether that's grant money that's going through council's projects, or whether it's, or just, yeah, what those big numbers are and why you think we're so far ahead of last year?
Yeah, there was a lot of large grant-funded projects that money comprises of, that value of work. So, yeah, I think that would account for most of it for the larger developments. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor Fogarty.
Yeah, look, just picking up on what Mari said, I wonder if we should, apart from going through Ramjo, if we should be lodging something independently as well, because it will have a profound impact on people. Just can't be bothered with all of the red tape, and it will have a profound impact on developments. And given that that's one area that we're trying to encourage, this would seem to be a real deterrent.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, that it would assist for us to do a standalone one as well. Some of the councils are saying they're already having issues with illegal development because people just are throwing their hands up in the air, and now we're taking on a compliance role, which is not, we would rather make it easy for them to lodge their application and help them rather than have to go out there with the big stick because they just don't want to go through the process because it's too difficult. So, and then it's difficult for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Mari, just a comment, like it's been going 6 weeks. How are they receiving the complaints in planning?
It's generally helpful advice, like change your, we can't, the problem we've had also is we can't integrate at this time with Tech One, so it streamlines it a bit for us because of the cost is just astronomical. And when we said that to them, that we just, this is costing us so much time and we can't afford the integration, they said, we'll just change your system. So, don't use Tech One anymore, use something else. And, it's just not helpful. It's not realistic. So, yeah, they're basically just, they think that we're overreacting and we're being negative about it. So, yeah, so far it hasn't been a very good reception. They're just ignoring us, really.
Sounds like they didn't do their homework properly to cater for all the systems that different councils have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And apparently they were changing the goalposts as it was going along. So some of the larger companies like Tech One were establishing a platform that worked with it, and then they changed things within their own system that broke those systems. So yeah, it was all, you had to reinvent the wheel. So Tech One have actually said they won't do it anymore. They're recommending alternate external parties to set those things up for us, and the costs are ridiculous and they're ongoing each year. So it's just not acceptable, really, that we would even think of doing that.
Councillor Fogarty, back to you.
Yeah, look, I just reiterate, I think we need to be really strong in lodging our voice, that this is something that's now another thing that's being imposted upon councils. And I think we, not just to the department should we lodge a complaint, but also to the minister to say this is unacceptable, particularly if it's not integrated with Tech One, when, from what we hear, Tech One is supposed to be one of the the main sources of computer information across LGAs. So, yeah, I think we just should raise really strongly that this is not acceptable.
Yeah. Any other further questions, comments?
So, Mr. Mayor, through you, we'll get the joint submission from Ramjo. We'll bring something back to this council to get it to endorse it. And following on from that, you know, might be able to write a letter to the minister as well. So the next steps.
Well, I'd just be interested to find out where the Ramjo submission is going to.
Murray, do you know the timelines around the Ramjo submission?
So the meeting was yesterday where they resolved to do that. So I don't know, they're working on it and they're going to send us back out what the submission is and then who it's going to go to. Yeah, I think it's as high a level as we can get it to. And obviously maybe through our regional planning office, but with a view to them assisting us because they are quite supportive of the issues we're facing. So I would assume that it'll go through them and we'll also, you know, send it direct to the planning minister.
Keep us advised, please, Murray, because we've made ground and we don't want to lose ground like we have after the last 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And we're phasing. We're not completely negative about it, but we need it to be user friendly for us and for applicants, and have the option of using either. And I think they can't just fob it off as being negative. We do want to use it if we can, but it's too difficult. So we need to have the option until they fix it. Really.
Right. Any other questions?
It was moved by Councillor Crabb, seconded.
No other questions? All those in favour of the recommendation, please raise your hand. Those against? Right, motion's carried. Item 10.8, Community Economic Development Update. Michelle.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm just trying to find my video. Hi. Hi, everyone. Good morning, councillors. Thank you. Now, I just wanted to present our community and economic development update. Now, there's a little mistake in the first part because now, although at the time that this report was written, comms and media was still part of our team, but Tiffany has now moved through the restructure into Phil's team to directly report to Phil. So I will start with economic development and business support. So we've met with several different business owners and prospective business owners over the last 2 months. So this report's just for the last 2 months. Previously, I've given you reports that were 3 months long. So this one's not as long, although there's some really great achievements in here. Our tourism obviously is being incredibly impacted now again, and has been for the last couple of months by border closures. We've been working closely with Murray Regional Tourism to advocate for the region around those. However, I think the current situation has brought everything to a screaming halt. Sorry, it's going on and off. So we were just about to go into market for our September and school holidays and youth muster campaigns. And unfortunately, we've just had to bring that all to a halt, other than social media, to keep our brand out there for when this is all over. We have been working with Frank and Pam, etc., from the operator's point of view, just so that we can pull together a co-op campaign that everyone can join into. But I'm just not sure what the timing is going to be. Just heard today that there's some cases around Balranald. Whether or not that's true just seems to be marching down towards us. As I said, we've been working with Murray Regional Tourism around the COVID impacts attached to the report, although I couldn't find it in the agenda, is the Murray Regional Economic Impact Assessment, which shows that we're in New South Wales, there's a 60% decrease in tourism across the board on the New South Wales side of the Murray. Not as bad as Victoria. They had 100% decrease in those last 2 months. Good news is that our social media campaign is growing. So we're just constantly growing our audience, and hopefully that will help us have a strong recovery. Some of the projects that we've been working on have been around the Rural Village painting program, so that's almost complete. The last one was we've just got the quotes in for Wanganella, so that should be complete in the next couple of months, when the weather gets a little bit nicer. The Pepin Heritage Master Plan, I'm going to be presenting that to you in September at a council workshop. And the community strategic plan. So our team's been heavily involved in organising all of those meetings throughout the villages and in Deniliquin, throughout the business community, the community organisations, and with councillors. And just spoke to Robbie this morning, and the plan should be ready on the 23rd of this month. In terms of arts and culture, we've just been working on the mural that's down in that arcade near Devour Cafe, and we're going to be putting up a day in the life of Denny mural instead of that old Ute Muster one. What else can I give you? So some of the other interesting stats are that obviously the library stats are going gangbusters, with our customer service being in there, and also the digital apps are really being well used, especially over COVID. We've just instigated a click and collect program again at the library for this recent shutdown. I believe that that'll go on for a couple of weeks. And just going back to our events, just wanted to update you. We had a fantastic event in June in the middle of winter at the Crossing Cafe, which drew about 130 people. It sold out in a couple of days. It was a moonlight cinema. And we've been asked to do that in several different places. So our next one will be at the golf club, and it'll be a bit warmer. But that was a really great event, a very affordable event, and we did that in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce. We've also had a couple of events with Robbie Sefton, with once again in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, and we had all of those events in the villages. So once again, a pretty heavy couple of. You can't hear me?
No, sorry. No, you're good. Don't look at my facial expressions. I'm still trying to deal with technical issues.
Okay. Sorry, Phil. I was just. And the other thing, so we've supported and celebrated NAIDOC Week. So Norm attended one of the celebrations with Phil, Erica, and I, and we actually supported 2 of those events, but one of them didn't go ahead. So the other thing that I just wanted to bring up was we've just sent around a newsletter to help to support people through this latest lockdown, and we've ramped up our Shop Local Denny program. We've also instigated an online shop for the Pepin Heritage Centre so that people can order online and pick up their goods just throughout this period while they can't shop. So any of the businesses that are in town that are offering click and collect, or if they're offering online services, or they're offering takeaway, we're supporting them through the Shop Local program. Has anyone got any questions at all?
Yeah, Councillor Hall.
Thanks, Michelle. Just not sure. I know you've got commercial and confidence in terms of the economic development business support, but with those people you've met, is there any likelihood something was going to come out of particularly the top 3?
Particularly
the top 3 points. Like, I'm not saying you've got to mention who they are, but is it progressing?
Yes. So definitely the first one is progressing. Phil and I met with the owner of that business just recently, so he's been impacted obviously through the availability of architects, etc. But that's definitely going to progress. The other one, not sure how that's going through the DA process, but we'll be just supporting as much as we possibly can. And yes, the energy companies, so I've met with them just again this week to give them a stakeholder engagement list and help them with their stakeholder engagement plan. So that's his timeline around that project is we should have more information and information that we can give out in around about October or November. So at the moment, I asked him who the landholder was, but he wasn't able to give me that information until there must be some contracts in place that need to be signed.
Thanks, Michelle. Councillor Poverty.
Yes, look, just wanted to mention it's a good report, Michelle, and lots of things happening, even though it's COVID, but particularly within that, it came up in the discussion with the GM on Tuesday about the great work that Peter is doing at the library. And apart from the click and collect, he's even taken the initiative to do for older people who the library is a great resource for them, that who do the phone and collect. And I really think, that Peter, or phone and deliver, not just phone and collect, but phone and deliver, which is a terrific initiative, and Peter really needs our sincerest congratulations on that. To include the older people in the community and to be thinking about how we can meet those needs rather than just doing what the job says you should do. It's a really good initiative.
Councillor McRae.
Michelle, just a thought regarding the extension of the Dine and Discover vouchers. Is there any opportunities to get more of our local businesses involved in that? Probably, particularly the ones that were are now doing. I think you know where I'm going, but have you got? Is there something we can do? Because I think they've been extended till the end of the year. And they are a great opportunity, but some of the criticism I've heard is that there's just not enough, or they don't know what businesses are eligible for that.
Well, what we could do is during our last lockdown, we produced the Dine-in Denny guide, and be pretty easy to put in some information about those who are actually doing Dine and Discover vouchers. That wouldn't be an issue at all. And we can, and look, we got great feedback from everyone around that particular piece of marketing material. So yeah, I'd be really happy to do that. We can also work with the businesses and help them get on board. I don't know if you've seen, but there's a one of the passes that we did with the depot and the Ute Muster Museum and the Pepin Heritage Museum was well, obviously we can't use those at the moment, but you know, that was a great idea to actually give access to the 5 through the One Dine and Discover voucher. So look, we're happy to do anything we can to help these businesses. There's actually been some really good, and I'll send out the figures, but the Dine and Discover vouchers, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that has been spent in Denny through that program. So I will send those out. Sorry, I probably should have left that, put that into that report.
Michelle, just with your discussions of the Fedi owner, did he mention any timeframes? Last time I spoke with him, it was sort of late this year, early next year. Might have been thoughts.
Yeah, no, I don't think that will happen because the DAs, etc., haven't been lodged. The plans haven't been developed. He's really looking to work with the architect. He's real and very much open to even working with a local architect because his guy from Melbourne just can't get here.
Right. Okay.
That's been the predominant hold up with that development is getting his architect over the board.
Mm.
Any other questions of Michelle? Councillor Metcalfe.
Michelle, just not sure, is the Estates building in the Town Hall your area still?
Yeah, oh, not the Estates building, but the Town Hall. I've been working with the Town Hall, yeah.
Just a query about, is it going to be painted, the exterior going to be painted?
Yes.
So obviously is that a heritage colour thing we got to abide by?
Yes.
And if so,
same colours as the hotel.
Who advises on the colour? Is it someone local or out of town?
It is our local heritage advisor, Noel from Wagga. So one of the
local then.
Oh, fairly local. He's the guy we work with on all of our buildings because he's actually attached to it to Edward River Council through our planning department.
Right. I think you know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I have heard some complaints, but one of the things around the town hall is that a lot of that paint's going to be stripped back and it's going to be brought back to brick. So a lot of those colours will go.
Right. So, okay, then if that's the case, do we as councils or the community have a look or get a say on the colouring? Because I do know there's some heritage colours in town which really don't aesthetically look that flash, especially when you go down the street. There's a fair multitude of probably a lot of colours.
Well, I'd be happy to send through the renders that Jed's provided to our committee, and that I've only got the town hall ones, but it looks to me that the town hall and the estates building will match.
Nick, you've also got 3 councillors on that committee, so have faith in us.
Oh, I totally have. But I just know that some of the heritage colours in town are a little bit, dated the right word because that's what it is, dated.
No, so we
weren't on that committee, Nick.
You were on the Blighty one, Nick, weren't you? You picked the Blighty pub one.
That's getting repainted.
Yeah, that'll be
repainted.
Exactly.
Is that right, Norm McAllister?
He's off in Cyberland.
Trying to join again.
No, it's all right. I've just what you read in the paper. I mean, obviously, there's some people made a comment like Janet Byrne hadn't been approached, but that's fine, Peter. Thanks, Michelle.
That's okay. I'll send those renders out to all the councillors if you like.
Thanks, Michelle. Pete, Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, happy to move that recommendation.
Moved by Councillor McGrath. We second it. Councillor Metcalfe. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Next one is 10.9, Sale Yards User Group. Mark.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report is just regarding or relates to previous recommendations, resolutions from council around the sale yards and council's desire to commence a sale yards user group. So following discussions at the recent workshop, I've just attached a draft terms of reference for what a group, such a user group would be like. Major points out of that are that it's not a section 355, it is only an advisory group to council and therefore has no delegated functions and no power to direct council. Focus on the sale yards. The membership, as was discussed, a mixture of councillors. So I've put in the terms of reference a minimum of 2, but normally user groups have 2 councillor representation, and then no maximum number depending on the interest from councillors to attend to be part of such a group. Each stock agent would have 1 representative. So my understanding that these 3 stock agents that we have currently operating out of the sale yards, the operator, and then 3 community members. So just that's as in light of the interest that has been shown in the sale yards over the last few months. The intent is that recommendation is for council to endorse the terms of reference. That would then allow us to go out to the community to get expressions of interest for those community members in an effort to bring this back to council in September to finalise the terms of reference, finalise the community members, and start having meetings of the group late September, early October, just so that we can continue with the other resolutions and other activities that the council wishes to proceed with regarding the sale yards. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. You got your hand up, Councillor Betts?
So I just had 2 questions about the terms of reference. The first one is, what's the reasoning behind a maximum term length for a community member? And my second point was in point 7, new members. When you talk about any new organisation or user becoming established at the sale yards, who would they potentially be, and would any of that potential person have to be considered in any lease that we have with the cattle yards, the sale yards?
Thanks, Councillor Betts. So in terms of the first part and putting in, what is essentially a term limit for community members, it's not something that normally goes into user groups, but generally user groups are around users. So a committee sporting group, for example, would always have a seat at a group, but the people who represent that group would turn over as the committee boards and that turnover. So having community members on a user group is a little bit different. I think it's a very good thing to do. So you can get into a situation where someone comes onto the group, shows a lot of interest in it at the start of the group, but then their interest may wane over time, and because they're not part of like a sporting group or another group, the group then loses that input. So the intent isn't to not have people be on this group for a long time. It's just to give council a mechanism if people who are community members on the group do their interest in it does wane over time. It gives a mechanism to refresh the group. So it is a little bit different than normal, but just the intent would be if a community member's on there for 2 years, that we would want them to continue to to be part of it. In terms of any new groups and that, so again, the user group has agents who are a specific group tied in very closely with the operation, and really, council want to find their views. So in terms of a new group within the terms of reference, it would be if another agent comes in and starts operating full time from the sale yards. It wouldn't be, say, if there were other buyers or transporters, would consider them as part of the community membership with it. So whilst there's the 3 there at the moment, I actually had the opportunity this week to go and see the sheep sale, which was pretty interesting for me anyway. And with the three agents, but then if another agent started working from the sale yards, we'd look at bringing them on as a user representative on the committee. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor McCredie.
Yeah, Mark, just a couple of things. Firstly, there's the membership, but there's also the quorum and the voting. I mean, with no effective quorum required, anyone from the user group can report to council, or 2 people from the user group can come to council with this as a recommendation of our group. I would have thought, I know they're only advisory, but a quorum of that committee would be quite important, as we may end up with quite a few differing views on what comes out of the user group. And also, the other query I have regarding the membership, I would have thought the delinquent agents, I believe, have an associated agents group. Why, you could end up with 6 agents on this committee. I believe they should speak with one voice, and that would overcome a lot of the issues and differences between their opinions. They can have one member on there that speaks for all the agents. Otherwise, we'll end up with, as we have had in some of our public meetings, quite vocal agents pushing their own barrows, and not necessarily the barrows of our ratepayers and the financial users of the sale yards, rather than the beneficiaries of the sale yards.
Yep, excellent. Thanks, Councillor McCrad. So yeah, the first point around the quorum is around that it is only an advisory group. That we would have examples of where advisory groups have quorums and when they don't. So I'm happy to insert that back in to the terms of reference in. As you say, just a way of ensuring or helping get some consensus across the group, because ultimately that's what we want is from a group, not, as you say, a lot of different points. We just want a consensus, and that the user group is talking to council as a united group. So definitely have a look at that. In terms of the agent representation, at the moment we've written in each agent with one representative. I do have it just reminded me about the associated agents group, and yeah, we can definitely look at giving them as a body a seat at the table. I would recommend that we give them 2 representatives as a group, and then get them to sort out who they'd want to and go back. So I think that is that's a good idea, because we just want to make sure we keep this user group at a very as strategic and as forward thinking as we can. We don't want it to bog down in maintenance works. There's other forums, other opportunities to raise issues around the sale yards. The user group needs to be developing, giving assistance to council on what the sale yards are going to look like into the future. So that may be a better way of engaging with the agents. So I'll take that on notice, and I am looking at coming back in a workshop between the September workshop to just bring this back in front of council for discussion about some of these details of the terms of reference.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Mark. Just the other question, or the other comment, I would like to see. I would like to see, hopefully, in the 3 community members, do we get some buyer representatives? I'm not sure whether that should be another one member from, that's listed as a member is a representative of the buyers, because effectively as sellers at the sale yards, the buyers are more important than the agents. And if they're involved in the process of this, or what this advisory committee is there for, I think buyers can have better input in some cases than the. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry. Councillor McGrath, I was just losing you there. Again, I think that's a great idea, and we can definitely bring that into the terms of reference. At the moment, the recommendation to council is getting the terms of reference to a point that we can go out and get those community members. So if there's a support for having those community members, and we can get that process started quickly, changes the terms of reference, bringing in another focus group like the buyers, we can bring them into the terms of reference, because then we'll just be dealing direct with a group of people. And I'm not sure whether the buyers have an associated group like the agents do or not, but that's something we'll investigate as well, just the best way of engaging with them.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you. Just in relation to the point, Mark, you said that there is mechanisms for the you don't want to get bogged down with in the terms of reference with. You want to keep it quite strategic, that's fine. But what is the mechanism for complaints around maintenance and that type of thing? Because at the moment, they seem to be coming to councillors, and then we're putting to you. What is there? Can we formalise something to make that a bit more streamlined?
Thanks, Councillor Hall. Yeah, that's something we're working on at the moment, especially into the new lease agreement. The complaints and concerns that any people using the facility have should go to the operator. Similar with the agreements we have for, say, the basketball stadium and the pool and those other facilities where there's a group or a company operating a facility on behalf of council. If those people don't get any response, or they're not, they're still concerned with the response they get, they can come to council. But we'd be looking at trying to facilitate rather than trying to just override the operator, so to speak. But it's something with the current lease that it's a bit quiet in that area. It's around the maintenance area as well, and something we'd need to firm up and get a lot clearer about what that mechanism is. But we're always happy to take that. Any concerns and that are raised as staff, we're happy to take them and sort of talk with the operator. He's getting a bit of a spotlight on him at the moment from staff, but yeah, that's what we need to do.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Betts.
So whilst I understand that we need the people on this user group that are relevant to what we're trying to achieve, do we also need to be a bit mindful and careful that we don't look like we're targeting certain people, groups or otherwise for what could be perceived as our benefit, rather than having a good rounded group of people? And I think that the invitations would, who puts their hand up, you would hope will be the people that are relevant. But yeah, I just want to make sure we don't look like we're narrowing the gap and targeting or having it being perceived that we're targeting certain people.
Thanks, Councillor Betts. Absolutely. We want people who have an interest in the industry. We don't want it sort of overtaken by people who have absolutely no interest. But in terms of the community, that not looking at any targeting. That will just be an open invitation. We'll put it out in the paper. I do want to try and knock it over fairly quickly. I understand council want to keep this going, the process, and get the user group up so I can start assisting council. But we'll try and keep that the advertising that as wide as we can, and not be seen, as you said, as trying to get specific people onto the user group.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
How did the yards sheep yards present on Tuesday?
They presented well. We had an inspection and talked to one of the operator's staff on Thursday. Noted that there was some improvement, but just asked that, well, it's not quite up where we would like it. So they did some more work there. I thought they presented pretty well on Tuesday. Did note though that because we haven't actually had some rain for a little while, and there were still some areas, some puddles and that, some really low points. So I did highlight some areas that we just need to look at. I'm going to have a discussion with the operator about his methodology and the way he actually does clean it. Seemed to be the main why he was a staff member with a broom, which I don't think is the most efficient way of undertaking the task. But we leave that to him, and we just put in the functional requirement that, well, an operator can undertake the task any way they want to, but there still needs to reach the standard that we need.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Metcalfe, what's your feedback?
While we're waiting for Nick, Mark, you might be able to use the footpath sweeper. They could hire it from us, and we could use it for private works.
Yeah, or a sweeper on a bobcat. They do need to get there, and now it's drying out. Their commitment to clean out the dirt pens and bring that level down. I'm sure any bobcat operator you would get would be able to have a sweep. Drum sweep on the front of it, which at least can go down the main runs, and maybe fit a bobcat down there as well. So there are other ways of doing it, and a bit of effort like that, and then would make ongoing maintenance a lot easier.
Yeah, Norm, Councillor Mayor, respond to you. Yes, I didn't really hang around and talk to the agents. I didn't want to get trapped. Really, I just dropped sheep off and went. But presentation is a little bit improved, but they got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But my question to Mark is, since he went out there for his first experience, did he buy any sheep?
I was given specific instructions, Councillor Metcalfe, to keep my hands in my pockets and not stare at the auctioneers. Advice I took to heart.
Well done, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. All right, any further questions to Mark on the sale? No. We need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Betts, seconded by Councillor Metcalfe. All those in favour, raise your hands. Those against, carried.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor, regarding that recommendation. The endorse the draft terms of reference. I would assume that that is taking on board the comments from today's meeting, and the draft will be adjusted based on what we've discussed. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
We've taken on board those comments. Council could have moved to a different motion, which might have said something around make some changes to the draft terms of reference. But for the purposes of this exercise, we'll take that on notice and bring it back to the meeting.
As it is a draft. Yeah, right. Well, I'm in favour.
Yes. 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 We have.
On the vote, okay, thanks. Now moving along, item 10.10, expressions of interest for the Denny Airport Industrial Area.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council has previously received a report regarding parcels of land in the airport precinct area that may be able to be developed for industrial purposes. So council's gone out to a 28-day exhibition period regarding the question of whether the land, the subject land, is surplus to council's operational and community needs. I just sort of want to reiterate that this part of the sale process isn't the expression of interest or any processes regarding the sale itself. It is just the first part that council needs to formally recognise that the land is surplus, and then it can move forward with the sale. So during the 28-day exhibition period, council received 2 submissions regarding the matter. Both submissions would be considered as objections or concerns raised regarding the process, mainly centred around the land being in the airport precinct should be focused for aviation and airport purposes only. There's concern around the obstacle limitation surface and impact on the operation of the airport. And then also some concerns just regarding development in general and how any development sale of the land would impact industrial area throughout Deniliquin. Staff will provide a response to those questions, which generally says that staff don't see don't see any issues or the concerns that have been raised as being reasons for not declaring the land as being surplus to council's operational needs. We feel that given that it's been highlighted in documents such as the airport master plan, as well as the industrial land strategy, council has definitely given sort of an intention or shown an intention to develop this land for purposes that aren't operational to the airport. So the recommendation from staff is that council does declare the subject land as being surplus and then proceeds with an expression of interest process for the sale of the subject land. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. The recommendations here, would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor McCrabb. Any comments or questions to Mark? I've just got a quick one. How long have we got the expressions of interest open, Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you were with the resolution from council today, and then it would go out for a 28-day period. It'd be a normal one. Ultimately, the expression of interest process is like an open tender process. The council just want to make sure that it is done in an open and transparent way, and generally under a tender type situation, or that period of time would be 28 days.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? No? All those moved, seconded, all those in favour? Raise your hand. Against? You against, Pete? You kept moved and seconded and carried. Moving along to, just while you're running
just a bit slow, Mr. Mayor, I apologise.
That's all right. Seeing you running hot, Mark, 10.11, capital works update.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think I might just leave my camera on for the next few reports. So, yeah, this report is a capital works update. Staff provide this report to council every quarter. So this is the Q4 report for the 2021 financial year, and being the final report now. This report is mainly for the capital works that council funds out of its own resources, out of depreciation, and that, not for the grant funded projects. That's another a report that comes up monthly to council. In terms of the capital works, I think the main thing is just with the attachment, which is our sort of traffic light report on status. There are a number of carry forwards that will come out of the program into next year. Just highlighting the ones in this in the attachment that are shown in red. So the bridge refurbishments not completed last year. We've highlighted that as staff as a sort of a major project and work that we do need to do. It's been a few years where work, and this is the actual components of the bridge, the concrete work, not so much the road approaches and things like that. So with some reports that have been done previously, it's a focus and priority for us to get a program and that undertaken in 21-22. The drainage area, that projects are connected with the roadworks that council is currently undertaking up in the James Street, Kelly Street, Stewart Street area, and so in line with them, carried forward. The water treatment plant areas, we've had some issues around there. It's actually one area that's sort of impacted council with availability of contractors, especially around COVID and border closures. We've found generally, we've gone okay, but some of the specialist people in the water and sewer haven't been able to enter New South Wales. The one there on the sewer relining, the CCTV we normally do as part of the relining project. So with that expenditure, we'll do that as part of when the 21-22 project goes ahead. And then just there in the fleet of pool cars and that haven't been turned over. That'll be part of the plan review that we've got in the operational plan for 21-22, and have had discussions with operational staff about getting that review started. In terms of the water main pigging, ultimately a decision was made that the cost involved in undertaking that work, so that's sort of cleaning the main large scale water main coming along Lawson Siphon Road. The costs there weren't valued for what the outcomes would be for that project. So we've made a decision not to proceed with that water main pigging. We have done a complete air scour clean of the entire network in the last year or so, and that would come up again in a few years as well. And then just to work with the Memorial Park water pump station, we're still just scoping through that project to ensure that that project can move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. Recommendation we note the capital works update. Someone want to move that? Moved by Councillor Crabb, seconded by Councillor Metcalfe. Any questions or comments to Mark? All right. All those, Councillor Crabb.
Mark, just a query regarding the Wanganella water supply refurbishment. There's been some quite significant change to the future of the Billabong Creek, as we became aware of, I think, last meeting, or we had a presentation at the workshop regarding the future of the Billabong Creek, and with all the work that's going on with replacing weirs. We did look at an alternative water supply for Wanganella, mainly because 2 years ago there was talk of the Billabong not being continuously supplied with water. Now that seems to have been overcome. So I'm just wondering, I think the test drilling is going on as we speak.
Yep.
Whether we hold off on doing, we get the information from the test drilling and get a location, but hold off on doing, a full bore and fitting out a full bore to supply water if the security of the Billabong Creek as a water supply for Wanganella is sort of a bit more secure than it was. Well, it is now secure. Just wanted you to, we've got $150,000 in there for connection of the bore, but we may not need to spend that if we've got the creek water secured.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Crab. And yeah, I'd agree with that. I've always had it in mind that it is a definite two-stage project.
You've muted yourself, Mark.
Yeah, no, sorry, councillors. I'm well to go this long before getting caught out. So yeah, thank you, Councillor Crab. Yeah, I've always seen it as a two-stage project in that we would do the investigations and definitely come back to council on the direction that council wants to go in terms of Wanganella and providing that service, because there are questions around, as you say, the availability of the water, which may improve depending on how the Billabong Creek Weirs project goes. But my understanding is also around quality. So even if the Weirs project that secures the water more, council may be looking at, with discussions with the community, of improving the water quality. So we'll get that information from the testing, try and find a better quality water source as well as more capacity, and bring that to council for discussion. Ultimately, the 150,000 is part, the works are being done under the water fund. So it would just stay in there in reserves until council made a decision to move forward or to not move forward with it. But it is a big decision to just see what that direction is. Thanks.
Yeah, Mark, I think with the
Thank you.
Wang's water is a lot more secure than what it was 2 years ago, because with this Yanko Creek modernisation, they've got the Wanganella Swamp as one of the key heritage environmental items that needs to have water to it on a regular basis. So I think that undermines water going down the Billabong Creek.
And it needs to be 50 megalitres a day over Darlow anyway, Norm. So the flow's got to go past.
Where did he come from?
I had to turn off all the technology, even my phone. As soon as I turned the phone off, I could get back.
Or was that the carrier pigeon that sent the message?
Good on you.
Oh, thanks for that, Mark. Is there
Moved by Councillor
any
Crab.
further questions to Mark on the capital works update? No? Take a vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. Item 10.12, the operations monthly report for July. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's probably the monthly report from operations, mainly focusing on maintenance work and other work that's not reported through like the capital works report or the major projects report. Councillors will notice we've changed the format of the report a bit. We've taken our cues from our environmental services brethren to try and just get the information a bit clearer coming across to people, rather than just being a big line of text and that. So grouping it in the different areas. At the moment, I'd probably take the opportunity now in talking around the latest COVID impacts on the operational section of council. We've made a decision internally that all operational staff are still working. We sort of deem it unreasonable for them to undertake their jobs and that from home. So that's the full operations department from the manager down. We see that as a way of continuing the service that council provides to the community. It is done in line with council's COVID plans. So in terms of social distancing, minimising team numbers, and cutting down the number of people in vehicles, wearing masks, things like that. So we're complying with the health orders, but continuing to undertake the work and that. So we'd be hoping it won't impact on council's operations too much during the current health orders. In terms of specific works, I think there was a question that had been raised just around some road grading of roads, Mooney Swamp, Martins Road and Melbourne Road. So I've received further information from operations that the maintenance grading work on Mooney Swamp and Martins Roads has been completed, and they'll be doing work on Melbourne Road this week. We have been internally working on the 2-week program, which is the operations staff have pretty well got it finally together. So I'll be looking at bringing that up to council just to show where we're at in terms of reporting and how with that reporting we can engage with council. So to give councillors sort of that heads up on what our planning is for those sort of works in the future. But on that, happy to take questions. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions to Mark? Nick Metcalfe, Councillor Metcalfe.
Mark, just a comment about the weeds in our park. Where are we at? Because I believe the weed chopper machine is non-functional and look like they're getting out of control. And how are we going to address it coming into summer?
Thanks, Councillor Metcalfe. Yeah, so the weeds, we've been able to take out the weeds now along the bank, and that's with the equipment and the help we get from the Lagoons group. So the plan has been to get the contractor in to do the main part. Unfortunately, the contractor's been caught up in COVID. They had a team up in the Central Coast of New South Wales, which landed it squarely in one of the hot zones in New South Wales. So at present, the timing they've given us is for mid-September, I think 20th of September. I've asked that the operational staff that make them stay to that, because ultimately they do have crews coming out of Melbourne, and Melbourne contractors can come up and do work up here, my understanding. So unfortunately, we are caught a bit there just in COVID rules, but the latest advice is that mid-September, which would then be able to clean that out before summer.
Okay, second one is the police running into one of our utes.
Oh,
comment.
Sorry, Councillor Metcalfe, or was that
on the bottom, the incident report? You got a FM 403 where a police car ran into one of our utes.
Yeah, I didn't
Any comment?
That hasn't been raised specifically with me, other than just being an incident with vehicles, and would be followed up as a motor vehicle incident. It sounds like the police car is at fault. The police cars are just as any other road user in terms of incidents or accidents. So I'll take up sort of that on sort of further notice. Hasn't been raised with me that there's any sort of issues or anything out of the ordinary with it, other than it was just a vehicle incident. But I'll sort of investigate that a bit further, Councillor Metcalfe, and advise.
I know, all good. It was just a comment purely because we're being asked to read all the minutes, that's all.
Yeah. I'll sort of caught out not picking up that line, Councillor Metcalfe, so I'll take that on board.
Councillor Metcalfe gets one brownie point. Councillor McCrabb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Does that mean Councillor Metcalfe never used to read the business papers? So just on that same section of the report, Mark, I think I know who we're talking about with FM 398. However, what does the FM and the number stand for?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Krabs. Yeah, so that's just an internal setup within sort of Tech One. It's got different modules. So the F is the fleet module, as opposed to our other assets like our roads and water and sewer, and that fleet sort of sits in its own area. So 398 is the number. Pretty well on merger, because we're coming into the Tech One system, kept the fleet numbers from the former Denilican Council, and then converted the numbers from the former Conago into Denny, sort of added onto those numbers. So now the number isn't like that's how many fleet items we have. But every bit of plan gets a unique number, and then once it's disposed of, we don't reuse the number. So.
The other questions regarding Maud Road, obviously has been a dry spell for some time. The last reseal was programmed for mid-August. Has that gone ahead or going ahead, or has COVID stopped that?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McCabe. So I've been advised that the latest seal has now been done. So that would have been sort of the 3rd kilometre. We're working through Maud Road in kilometres. So that'd be the 3rd kilometre, which I'm very happy that has occurred. You don't want to leave once you've done final pavements and trimming and that. You want to try and get a seal on it as quick as you can, because it will only deteriorate. So that resealing's now been done, and they're moving into with some better weather, looking at moving into the next kilometre of works.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks for that bit of advice, Councillor Betts. 681 new cases today in New South Wales.
Yeah, and the extension till the 28th in regional New South Wales lockdown.
Has that come through? Is it?
Yeah.
Lockdown. So what we've got?
Extra to the 28th, they've extended it to.
Extra fortnight.
Regional New South Wales.
We'll talk about
I'm happy to do that.
Sorry, operational report. Right, the operational report. Someone like to move that be received?
Councillor Bull.
Councillor Bull has in the back. Councillor Wallace has seconded. Any further questions? All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. 10.13 major projects program. This is the last one for you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to present it. The monthly major projects report to council, focusing on the larger grant-funded projects, with just a summary of the funding in that. Council be aware that at the last council meeting there was a summary of the grant funding. So as we get more opportunities for grant funding, or we're successful, we'll continue to report and update council on how they go. Overall, the projects are going well. There's been good progress at the town hall, especially now that the structural steel has turned up. That was a major a critical point on the timeline for that. Very much held up with just supply of steel and building products generally for the industry. That's now gone in, and they're starting to do some demolition of the walls, the masonry walls, and that in the town hall, and putting the structural steel straight in. In the attachment, again with the traffic light set up, notice there's a number there that are yellow. They're mainly around our discussions with the grant funding bodies around acquittal dates and milestones. So as all councils are finding hard at the moment with timeframes, especially around COVID and contractors and availability of material, it's been difficult to meet the original timelines that were put in, many that were set prior to COVID. To date, the government funding bodies have been extremely accepting of the situation the council finds it in, and we've had very good engagement from the funding bodies and the ability to renegotiate milestone dates and that. So we have it in the report here as a yellow when we've gone past those dates, because ultimately that's against the time cost quality. So it's a time issue. Once those milestones and that get renegotiated, they'll move back into green, because the projects are moving forward well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions or comments to Mark on the the August report. All happy? Someone like to move that we receive that report? Moved by Councillor Betts, seconded by Councillor Hall. No further questions or comments. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. Well, that concludes the general meeting of council. So some confidential items, so we need to move into confidential council. Would someone like to move that we move into confidential council? Councillor Metcalfe, seconded by Councillor Betts. Sorry, Councillor Crab. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Cease the live stream.
Cease the live stream. Just stop live stream.